Going live.
Okay, good evening, and call the Planning Advisory Committee meeting to order. Attendance, Councillor Kelly has indicated that he was unavailable, and Mayor Panchuk is sitting in. I have some opening remarks. The public meeting is being heard by City Council Planning Advisory Committee, and public notice has been given in accordance with the Planning Act. The non-elected members of the Planning Advisory Committee are Mr. John Beltudis, Mr. David Joyce, Ms. Catherine Brown, and Mr. Paul Jennings. Citizen appointees may ask questions and participate in the discussion in order to assist in making recommendations to City Council, but may not make motions or vote in connection with the public meeting. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Planning Committee or City Council before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of City Council or the local planning appeal tribunal. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the City of Belleville before the related bylaw is passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the local planning appeal tribunal, unless in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party. Comments received at this public meeting, as well as written comments, will be considered by the Engineering and Development Services Department in analysis of the applications that were part of the public meeting tonight. And further information on how to provide comments to the city regarding an application from this public meeting, please email planning@belleville.ca. A recommendation report will be brought forward upon receipt of all agency and public comments in the future. Any persons wishing to be advised of the Belleville Planning Advisory Committee's recommendations with respect to today's applications are requested to provide their name and address, as well as the application in which they have an interest in writing to the City of Belleville. So with that, disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Seeing none, we'll go to the public meeting. 3.1, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw 3014, 215 Pine Hill Crescent, City of Belleville. Owner is Absolute General Contractors Limited, and file number is B-77-1153. If staff could present the application, please.
Thank you. The subject land is located on the east side of Highway 62, south of Clearview Road, and on the west side of Pine Hill Crescent. The application proposes to rezone the subject land from a rural zone to a rural residential zone as a condition of consent applications B27-21 and B28-21, which propose to sever two new residential lots from the subject land. The north side of the subject land is currently being developed with a single detached dwelling as well. Staff have not received any correspondence from the public regarding this application at this time, and the official plan designation of the subject land is rural. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. And we have Kirk Putnam and Corey Putnam listed to make a presentation. Mr. Putnam, you are in the meeting.
Hello.
Hello there. You have the floor.
Oh, I didn't know I needed to make a speech. I was just listening in.
Okay, no problem. You were listed as a presenter, but that's fine. If you have nothing further to add, I'll just ask the committee members if there's any questions.
Thank you.
And I don't see any, so thank you very much, Mr. Putnam. And so I have no one else listed. So I have a resolution that the Absolute General Contractors Limited application number B-77-1153 be referred to the regular planning meeting for consideration. Moved by Councillor Sanderson, seconded by Councillor Alsop. All in favor? That's carried. 3.2, notice of complete applications and introductory public meeting for Village of Avonlea application for proposed amendments to Belleville's Loyalist secondary plan, zoning bylaw 2076-80, zoning bylaw 10245, and application for draft plan of subdivision, part of lots 31 and 32, Broken Front Concession and Concession 1, Township of Sydney, now City of Belleville, County of Hastings, Owner is 256-6531 Ontario Incorporated and 2663925 Ontario Incorporated. File numbers are B-50-3-39, B-77-1154, and 12T-21002. We have staff present the application, please.
Thank you. The subject land is located immediately west of Avalon Road and north of the CP rail line. It's east of Wallbridge Loyalist Road and Quinte Christian High School and south of Potters Creek. The city is in receipt of the complete applications for a draft plan of subdivision, as well as amendments to the Loyalist secondary plan and to zoning bylaws 2076-80 and zoning bylaw 10245. The applications would facilitate the development of 695 dwelling units consisting of single detached dwellings, semi-detached dwellings, townhouses, horizontal multiple attached dwellings, and 8 low-rise apartment buildings, as well as 3 high-density apartment buildings. The draft plan of subdivision application proposes the approval of a plan with a total of 309 lots and blocks, 11 new municipal streets, and a short extension to realign Avalon Road. The draft plan also proposes blocks for parkland, a stormwater management facility, a noise berm along the CP rail line, and 2 blocks at the north end of the subject lands, which would be added to other lands that are owned by the applicant. The Loyalist secondary plan amendment application proposes to amend Schedule A land use plan to specify the location of the parkland, stormwater pond, and the environmental protection lands. It also proposes to amend Schedule D stormwater management plan to address the extent of the stormwater management pond proposed, as well as Schedule E transportation and trail system. This is in order to modify the location of the proposed collector road traversing through the subdivision. The zoning bylaw amendment application proposes to rezone the subject land from an agriculture A2 exception 8 zone and environmental protection zone in zoning bylaw 2076-80 to 3 new residential zone categories, including a residential 3rd density zone with special provisions, a residential 6th density zone with special provisions, and a residential 7th density zone with special provisions. This is in addition to zones for open space, environmental control, and community facility zones. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment will facilitate the proposed mix of dwelling types and densities, parkland, environmentally protected lands, and a stormwater facility. The proposal also includes a request to incorporate the subject land into zoning bylaw 10245, so effectively removing it from zoning bylaw 2076-80. Since the publication of the initial staff report, the city staff have received submissions from the public with questions concerning the applications, and these will be included in the future recommendation report. The subject land is currently designated residential, environmental protection, open space, and community facility in the Loyalist secondary plan. Thank you.
Thank you. And have Ruth Ferguson Althouse to make a formal presentation. Ms. Ferguson Althouse, your microphone is activated. Your camera is not, but you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a presentation, if that could be shared.
I'm sure staff are working on that right now. There we go.
Terrific, thank you. I'm happy this evening to present on behalf of the development team and the owners an overview of the applications for official plan amendment, rezoning, and draft plan of subdivision for a project that has been is known as the Village of Avonlea. So it'll be referred to as Avonlea throughout. If I could have the first slide, please. Desta's already provided an overview of the location of the property. It's approximately, the subdivision lands are 36.5 hectares or 90 acres. And there are two owners that are working together to create this project as a joint venture. The lands themselves are primarily vacant croplands, and they are generally level with a slope to the southwest. There is a proposal to utilize land that's owned by the city of Belleville. That's the green narrow band of land that connects to Woolwich Road as part of the road network, which I'll describe later on in the presentation. But generally, I think that the surrounding land uses have already been described by Desta. So we'll move on to the next slide. We started the design work in 2019 and have pre-consulted with the city during that process to ensure that we had a complete application, which was filed in November of 2021. Our firm prepared the applications for draft plan of subdivision, official plan amendment, and rezoning, as well as the planning justification report and the plan of subdivision and development site plan drawings. You saw one of those drawings as part of the staff presentation, as well as urban design guidelines for the project. The Ainley Group prepared the stormwater management report, the servicing report, also assessed sanitary capacity and the water main design, and the environmental impact study. Azurza Engineers prepared the traffic impact study. An archaeological assessment for stage 1 and 2 was prepared by Ground Truth Archaeological, and Air Acoustics Engineering prepared the noise and vibration impact feasibility study. This presentation will provide a summary of these technical reports, and team members will be available to answer questions following the presentation. This slide provides a summary of the draft plan of subdivision design. Desta's already provided a bit of an overview. I'll just explain a little bit more about the various land uses and where they're arranged on the subdivision. There are 260 single detached units and 36 semi-detached units, and these are shown in the yellow and pink colors on the plan. And they constitute about 43% of the unit mix in the subdivision. Within the medium density category, there are single-story townhouse units, 52 in total, and 39 2- to 3-story townhouse units, which comprise 13% of the unit mix. And they're shown in the orange blocks in the south part of the subdivision, both a bright orange and a dark orange. There are 96 medium density units shown in the pale purple color in 3-story apartment blocks, or as well in back-to-back stacked townhouse units, and there are 68 of those. Overall, 24% of the units would be in this medium density category. And finally, in the dark purple, there is a block that's proposed for 144 apartment units. These would be 4- to 5-story and would be considered as higher density residential development. On the plan, there's also a large blue block, which is the stormwater management pond, and in the central area, there's a green block, which is the main parkland. There's a small parkland located along the west block next to the Quinte Christian High School. This slide provides an overview of the road network because there are some changes that are proposed that affect the existing local road network, and I'll just walk you through that if I may, starting first of all with number 1, which is a new collector road, Street A, which will loop through the subdivision, and it extends north beyond the subdivisional limits, eventually connecting to Sienna, the northward extension of Sienna Avenue, which has been approved. And then B, Street B is shown as number 2 on the plan, and it will be a collector that will be constructed across the land I referenced that is owned by the city of Belleville to Woolwich Loyalist Road, and it will connect to the western boundary of the subdivision. Where these two streets intersect at number 3, there's a roundabout that's proposed, and the roundabout is proposed to provide for more traffic safety as well as traffic calming. Number 4 shows where the existing Avalon Road will intersect at this new Street A, and it will create a new T intersection with a stop control. Another T intersection at number 5 would show how Avalon Road would connect to the new Street A in a similar fashion. And finally, at number 6, Hastings Park Drive would be also realigned at the intersection of Street A, again with a T-type intersection at the east boundary of the subdivision. So the purpose of these road network changes are intended to essentially move traffic through the subdivision, as well at the same time reducing impacts on existing local streets, essentially by encouraging the traffic to use both Street A and B. Next slide, please. As has been referenced, the subdivision does include a wide mix of housing types, ranging from the single detached to the higher density apartment buildings. The overall density is 31 units per net hectare, which is just at the upper limit of low density, just because of the full extent of the size of the subdivision. The medium density blocks would be developed at a density of 58 units per net hectare, while the high density block would be at 80 units per net hectare. And these are ranges that planners are interested in. I'm not sure if the planning committee is familiar with how the official plan and the secondary plan references various land use categories according to units per hectare, but they're important for the analysis. The blend of the housing types is arranged in a progression. Essentially, the high and the medium density blocks are in the south and southwest portions of the site. The northern half of the subdivision consists primarily of single detached dwellings. This particular extract from the development site plan shows the low density single detached lots that would face the existing single detached homes in the Hastings Park subdivision, with that T of Avalon Road that I referenced that would connect to the new Street A. Next slide, please. There's a primary park block that's centrally located, and it's equivalent of 5.6% of the subdivision lands, or just over 2 hectares in size. We've positioned the central park block so that essentially it's a walkable distance for all of the residents in the subdivision. It's designed also so that it's open along 3 street frontages, here shown Street A, Street E, and Avalon Road. The park is intended to be accessible and visible to all the residents that live in the neighborhood now and will live there in the future. And there will be trails that are shown in the gray dash line traversing through the park and connecting to existing sidewalks and multi-purpose paths on the surrounding streets. Within the park, we've drawn in for design features an open grass playing field, a playground, the paths, and trees. There's also the small parkette that will connect Quinte Christian High School with the subdivision lands on the western boundary. Along Street A and B, there will be a multi-purpose path, and that is part of the function of those streets as collector roads. All of the roads will also have sidewalks provided on at least one side of every street. The street pattern has been designed to be continuous. There's very few, I think only one small cul-de-sac, to ensure that the entire neighborhood is permeable, and the street lengths have been kept relatively short so that it's a compact community. The design will ensure opportunities for linkages with walkways that connect to the surrounding residential areas. This particular extract from the development site plan shows a potential pedestrian crossing to the Quinte Conservation Area. This intersection would be signalized, and there's an opportunity here to have residents from the community cross here and provide access to the trails at the conservation lands. Next slide, please. Thank you. The traffic impact study is the focus of the next few slides because it was such a key component of this project. And it was prepared not just for the Avalon project, but for future phases of Potters Creek subdivision. So essentially the lands that are shown in red on this slide. And the purpose of the traffic impact study was to review, assess, and determine the traffic impacts from the proposed developments on the adjacent roads and intersections, and also to evaluate how the intersections would operate and if there would be any changes in how the level of service, which is a metric that the traffic engineers use to measure. The road network layout that was designed for the subdivision was through the recommendations of the traffic impact study, and looked at how the design could be proposed to mitigate impacts on existing local streets. There are two signalized intersections that are recommended. The first I've referenced is at Walbridge Loyalist Road and at the land owned by the city in Street B. It will require signalization as well as some auxiliary turning lanes. And secondly, there is a recommendation for signalization at Moira Street West at the north end at Avalon Road. And this is due to the high traffic volumes on Moira Street West. The traffic impact study and the design of the subdivision are proposing two roundabouts, which is new for subdivisions within Balville, I believe, at Collector Street intersections. So the first is the Collector Street intersection of A and B, and it's shown on the left-hand side of this slide, which is proposed as a roundabout intersection, and essentially where the intersection with the apartments to the north and the stormwater pond to the south, and to essentially move traffic through the subdivision in a safe and safe manner, and to reduce speeds. Also at the Street A, where it meets with Sienna at the north end, and so the image on the right shows the design for the 9A of Potter's Creek. There is a roundabout that's proposed at that intersection as well. And essentially this will be the gateway into the Belleville West community, and encouraging, again, speed reduction and safety, and essentially to draw traffic away from the Hastings Park subdivision. Hastings Park Drive was designated as part of the Collector Road in the Loyalist secondary plan. And to maintain its status as a local road, this new Collector Street A was reoriented to join Sienna further north, as I've just referenced. To further discourage the cut-through traffic and to minimize speed, there is a recommendation for speed humps on Hastings Park Drive between Avalon and Sienna. The existing south junction of Avalon and Garnet Crescent intersection currently does not meet safety standards. And there's a recommendation that Garnet Crescent at the north junction would be converted to a cul-de-sac, and the intersection would be closed, leaving the north intersection to access. It's shown on this slide. A reference that Avalon Road south of Hastings Park Drive would be redesigned and classified as a local road, and how the intersection would be realigned to form a 90-degree intersection, again to reduce the traffic and create essentially a local thoroughfare on Avalon Road. There's a proposed opportunity here that the existing roadway bed could be converted to a low maintenance garden and added to adjacent properties, and that there's safe intersection space in between the two intersections of Hastings Park Drive and Avalon Road where it meets Street A. Turn now very briefly to speak to the servicing reports that were prepared by Ainley. The subdivision will drain by gravity sanitary sewer, and there is a new sewer that was installed on Avalon Road at the south end. The full development of the Avalon subdivision can proceed within the capacity that was allocated through the sanitary sewer master plan for the Palmer Road pump station. And so the engineers have looked at that capacity allocation, and that's part of the technical review that was done and submitted to the city staff. In terms of the water main design, the water main will be serviced by looping the municipal water main on Walbridge Loyalist Road and Avalon Road. And the engineers confirmed that there was sufficient flow and pressure in the municipal system to support the subdivision development. And finally, I draw attention to the existing bell easement, which is a major easement that runs through the subdivision in east-west, shown in the darker dashed line. We've designed the subdivision so that easement is incorporated entirely within the Street A road allowance, as well as existing parking or parking area and block 301, which is a park block. In terms of the stormwater management, I've referenced the large pond that would be provided to provide for the both the control of the quantity of stormwater runoff and to treat and improve the quality of the stormwater runoff. To provide the drainage to that, there will be a combination of curb, gutter, and storm sewers and rear yard swales to the pond. And there's an existing drainage course that runs along the south edge of the through the park area, and it will be channelized and then piped down to this pond. There is also consideration of the flow from the adjacent lands that will be conveyed into the stormwater system. And it's hoped that the slopes of the pond will be gentle enough so that it can be landscaped and not have to be fenced, and it can be incorporated into the street frontages of streets A and B. Air Acoustics provided the study on the noise control features to meet the provincial noise guidelines. This bottom part of the slide shows the recommendation for a 2-meter high acoustic barrier, which would be built on top of a 2.5-meter safety berm. And this is to protect outdoor amenity areas from excessive noise. It would form part of the storm pond and the road allowance of Street A. There would also be requirements for air conditioning and warning clauses for certain buildings within the subdivision. All of the homes will be set back a minimum of 40 meters from the CP rail. And as well, we have shielded the backyard spaces by positioning the front doors and garages, if you will, along Street A. So that will help mitigate some of the noise impacts. Queen Conservation Authority, who we've consulted with, advised that their preference would be that the northern limit of the draft plan would be set at the top of the slope south of Potters Creek. So we have the slope area surveyed, and this line has formed the northern limit of the subdivision. The actual slope is shown on the bottom photograph on this slide. So there's a fairly steep embankment just to the north of the limits of the subdivision that lead down to Potters Creek, which we've shown a picture at the top of this slide of the actual Potters Creek corridor. So that the environmental protection areas will actually be enlarged to incorporate this additional EP area. And all of the lots will be set back 15 meters from the 1 in 100 flood line, at or above the survey top of bank, and 30 meters from the creek. So the EP lands essentially are not incorporated into the draft plan. They will be other lands that will then be added to lands that the one of the owners purchased recently from the city of Belleville. And the reason for this is that the city and the Conservation Authority did not express any interest in these lands. And also Quinte Conservation advised that the drainage channel that traverses the site midpoint did not require any environmental protection. Just turn very briefly to the policy framework. The Planning Justification Report provides a very detailed overview of the Planning Act, the Provincial Policy Statement, and the official plan policies of the city. All development has to be consistent with the 2020 Provincial Policy Statement. The Village of Avonlea subdivision is within the Belleville Urban Serviced Area, which is to be the focus for growth and development. There is, we believe, to be sufficient municipal servicing available through the extensions of the existing infrastructure in the area. Avonlea will be a logical progression of the existing Potters Creek and Hastings Park neighborhoods. So it's contiguous to existing developed areas. And there is a range of housing forms and densities that are proposed and that will be in a compact form and make efficient use of existing land and infrastructure. Importantly, this subdivision will contribute towards the city's 3-year supply of land that is to be zoned, draft approved, and can be readily serviced following the approvals through this process. This area is well situated with public facilities. There's an elementary school, high school, community college, parks, and trail systems already in very close proximity. And finally, the Potters Creek and the buffer lands will be preserved, and there will be protection provided to the waterway in its wooded areas and to ensure flood and drainage controls. Just turn now to the Loyalist secondary plan. As Desta referenced, these lands within the Belleville official plan form part of the Loyalist secondary plan. And this secondary plan is getting on in years. There is a work underway by the city to have a consultant to update the plan. But because this project is moving ahead of that, we see that there's a requirement, agreed that there was a requirement to update it specific to the Avonlea project. So currently that yellow is residential. So the subdivision lands are outlined in black, and most of the subdivision lands are designated for residential development. And we are proposing, however, to incorporate the planned location of the park, the storm pond, and to add the additional environmental protection lands. We're going to update Schedule D, which is the stormwater schedule, just to more accurately show where the storm pond is going to be. And also we'll update the transportation schedule. So this next slide shows the actual amendments that we prepared for the official plan amendment. So you'll see that the schedule looks a little bit different. It shows the new park locations. It shows the new stormwater pond. The road network has changed, and the EP area has been extended further south. So this is what the amendment to Schedule A of the Loyalist secondary plan looks like. There's no amendment required to the policies within the plan that affect the development. So the orange area on Schedule E transportation shows where the collector roads were set out in the Loyalist secondary plan. And this collector road system, this map is obviously going to be updated, but currently it follows along parts of Avalon Road in front of Hastings Park subdivision, and then actually dips onto Hastings Park Drive. Beyond that, we're not really clear where it goes. It seems to just basically fizzle out. So it is proposed that we would amend Schedule E to correct the location of the planned collector roads and to take this designation of collector roads off of these local streets. So this is what the new Schedule E official plan amendment to Loyalist secondary plan would look like. You can see that the positioning of the collector road, shown again in the gold color, follows the layout of Street A and B and then connects up north to Sienna. And Sienna is on the right-hand side of that slide. As just a reference, there's rezoning proposed with this application. This is our zone schedule. Most of the lands would be in a third density R3-X zone to permit the single semis and townhouses. There are the blocks that would be zoned for the 3-story apartments that are shown in the hatch to the R6 special zone, and the crosshatch, which would be an R7 special zone to permit the 4 to 5-story apartments, and as well the O1 zone for the parklands, which is in the darker tone. The stormwater pond in the lower left corner would be in a community facility zone, and then the environmental zone would be updated at the north. This provides a conclusion of the presentation, the overview that I've provided to the official plan amendment, rezoning, and draft plan of subdivision for the Avonlea project at a very high level. The subdivision consists of 695 units, has a complete mix of dwelling units, singles, semis, towns, apartment blocks, a stormwater management pond and parkland at a net density of 31 units per hectare. I provided an overview of the proposed amendments to Schedules A, D, and E of the Loyalist secondary plan, essentially to update the pattern of development based on the overall plan for the site and supported by the technical studies. And the studies conclude that the Potters Creek watercourse will be protected with the appropriate building setbacks, and the rezoning will implement the design of the draft plan of subdivision. And finally, that the approvals that we're requesting are consistent with the provincial policy statement and meet all of the planning policies of the city's official plan and Loyalist secondary plan and represent good planning. Thank you very much for allowing us to make this presentation. And I know that there are members as well of the development team that are also available, Adam Wilson and Scott Reynolds from Ainley's and Martin Azurza from the traffic engineering.
Thank you for that presentation. And if city staff can add Mr. Azurza, Mr. Reynolds, and Mr. Wilson into the public portion, and I'll open it up for any questions. Mr. Baltutis, and then Councillor Alsop.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The question is this a phased development, like A, B, and C? So they work on one area, get it finished, go to another area, or is this going to be a phased or going to be built kind of all at once?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I can answer that question. We are seeking approval of the subdivision in its entirety, but it would be constructed in phases, and a phasing plan essentially from the south moving north, if I could describe it that way, and connecting west through Walbridge Loyalist in the area of the storm pond would be the earlier phases, because of also the sanitary sewer has been provided to that location. So it would be rolled out in phases, as most subdivisions are, similar to Potter's Creek, which was also a phased subdivision.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Azurza, I see you've got your electronic hand up. I don't know if you were adding anything or.
No, at this point. I think just about the roundabouts, we were having a lot of discussions with the city, and I think this is a great component, really to maintain a safe speed in the area. That's all from me.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Alsop.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Through you, I was just wondering, sort of to dovetail on what Mr. Baltutis had mentioned, given the size of the development, is there a sort of a scheduled construction timing that you would think would be completed over a period of time?
Anybody wants to?
I was going to ask if Adam could comment on that.
Sure.
Certainly. Can you hear me?
Yes, you
Yes.
have the floor.
Yeah, I would expect a project of this size would be a good 10 years of build out.
Perfect, thank you.
Councillor Feeney.
Thank you. Through the chair. That was an excellent presentation. Very well done and very detailed. I'm not a planner and I understood it, so thank you very much. My big interest, of course, is in the rental accommodation, that part of the project. And I was wondering if any thought has been made to have, is it going to be mixed in terms of market rent versus some others that are a little more affordable, so that there would be opportunity for many different residents to enjoy this facility?
Sure. Thank you again through the chair. I'm happy to answer that as best I can. It's a very good question. It's hard at this point to know what the opportunities would be for the apartment block, other than we would expect it would be purpose-built rental housing, but there could be an opportunity as well for some condominium ownership there. But the purpose of at this stage is to set out the land use, the densities, and how the subdivision is going to be serviced and designed. And at that point, then as we move through the approvals process, then there's opportunities to, because right now, of course, it's just vacant land and doesn't have any approvals attached to it. So we have a long process to move ahead to get to the point of knowing how that particular block will be developed. But we just wanted to make sure that there was an opportunity throughout the subdivision for the full range of housing units, and including rental housing.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Community members? Mayor Panchuk.
Thank you very much, Councillor Carr. And I want to say off at the outset, this is a very exciting concept for this part of the city. And You presented an excellent plan, and my compliments, as well as what Councillor Feeney said about the presentation was very, very impressive. I noticed a couple things that really stood out to me. One is you've got an impressive amount of green space in this neighborhood, and in particular, there is parkland within 1 kilometer for so many people. I believe there was one slide that talked about that all residential units in this area will be under a half a kilometer from that green space, which is excellent, and that makes a walkable community. My question is more about the Hastings Park existing neighborhood and community consultation. Are you able to confirm that community consultation has occurred with residents so that they were made familiar with this prior to hearing about it from the city through the planning application?
Again, yes, I can answer that question if I may, through the chair. The owners, Greg DeMille and Greg Suds, did go door to door in, I think it was November, with a flyer with their contact information, and we prepared a plan and a summary of the project, and they were asked to, all residents were encouraged to contact them directly with any questions about that they might have with respect to the subdivision. I know as they were walking around door to door, I think that was pre-Omicron, and it was a little safer to do so and talk to people. There was an opportunity, I think, that they actually spoke to residents as they were touring through the neighborhood. I also forwarded all of the material directly to one of the residents that I'm familiar with in that neighborhood, who I engaged with during the Potters Creek project. And I also had an opportunity during the Potters Creek project to talk to many of the residents when we had open air public meetings there. It is challenging to do public consultation, but we've taken as much opportunity as we can to ensure that the residents were informed, or to at least know how to contact us directly if they have questions.
Okay, and that consultation process will continue, but it's refreshing to see that happen on the front end, which I think clears up a lot of confusion. So thank you very much for that and for the presentation.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions from community members? No? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Ferguson, Allhouse, and the others. I have listed Rob Hallsworth, who would like to speak on the application.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak. I'll start with actually answering Mayor Panchuk's question. I do think the developers did a very good job of community consultation. In addition to coming around, I contacted them. They came out one morning to meet my wife and I, and we spent an hour with them going over the project. So I think that was well done and handled up front. I was one of the community members who spoke in the August meeting about traffic, particularly the local traffic issues. And I do think that the developers, the planners, the city have done a nice job on the local roads. And I think that's a vast improvement from where we were back in August. So I thank you for that. I do have two questions I would like to raise. The first concerns the existing Hastings Park subdivision where I live. Probably the best way to describe the issue as I see it would be to refer back to one of the slides that Ms. Ferguson Altall showed, and that was the one on the traffic study, which showed an overview of our area surrounded by a big red donut. And I think that describes what's happened. When I moved into my home 25 years ago, we were surrounded on 4 sides by fields. And now we're going to be surrounded by 1,500 homes. So the question I have for the city is, what are the city's plans for improvements within the existing Hastings Park subdivision, specifically around sewer, both sanitary and storm, sidewalks, and those 3 areas. I see there are sidewalks being added to the west side of Avalon Road between Hastings Park and Monteagle, but there are really no sidewalks that would extend to areas that residents of this community access on foot. So that is my first question. What is the city doing for the existing subdivision? My second question very specifically concerns our home. We live at 218 Avalon Road, which is the residence that's going to have its driveway relocated as a result of the change in orientation of Avalon. And so I'm going to have a driveway that is about twice as long as I have today, and a parkland on the west side of my property. So my question is, what assurance does the city provide to me regarding the design, the cost, the maintenance, and the ownership of those changes to ensure that I am not disadvantaged while this subdivision is developed? So thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. I don't know if staff are in a position to answer those questions today. Does staff want to make comment at this point, or would rather talk to Mr. Hallsworth?
We've, through you, Mr. Chair, I've taken down the questions, and it will require some consultation with our engineering staff and other staff in the EDS department. So, Mr. Hallsworth, we will get back to you on your questions as soon as we can.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from community members? No, I don't see any. Thank you, Mr. Hallsworth. Next, I have Christopher Dustin listed to speak. Mr. Dustin, you have the floor.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes, we can.
I have a presentation to share, if I could be permitted to share my screen.
Yeah, go ahead. Mr. Bridgen, is that possible?
Sure is.
Okay. You want to go ahead and
Working on it here, yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. Okay, I think I'm sharing now.
Yeah, I see Happy New
okay?
Year. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So yes, Happy New Year, everyone. I will keep this fairly brief, as many of the concerns of Hastings Park residents have been voiced in previous meetings, and much progress has been made, though there are some important concerns that I will present to you here tonight. But first and foremost, I'd like to give a very big thank you to everyone who has helped to address the concerns of Hastings Park subdivision residents so far. A really big thank you to Mayor Panchuk and Councillors Carr, Kelly, Sanderson, Thompson, and member Catherine Brown for actually visiting and walking with us through our subdivision, meeting with residents, hearing our concerns, and advising us on how to best address them. We'd also like to thank members Baltudis, Jennings, and Joyce for their correspondence and the advice that they provided. Director Ashton and city staff have been very helpful and open in their communication, and collaboratively worked with Ruth Ferguson Althouse and Adrian Bax of Potters Creek subdivision to genuinely address the concerns of residents of Hastings Park subdivision. I sincerely thank you. And I'd also like to make special acknowledgement of the great advice and guidance that I received from our former member and friend, Pat Culhane, who encouraged me to read the policies, get involved, and speak up. And that's the action that we've taken so far. I've spoken with you a number of times here about the amenities that have brought us to Hastings Park subdivision and that we've come to rely upon and enjoy. Our subdivision is a sort of a crescent shape that connects at both ends with Avalon Road. It's a rural subdivision that is slowly becoming an urban subdivision as development progresses further to the west. There are still open ditches with no sidewalks. Being rural, wildlife is plentiful, but many of these amenities stem from and depend largely on the fact that we have local roads with no through traffic. Without sidewalks, the roads are routinely used for pedestrians and for recreation by both the residents of Hastings Park subdivision and also now by the new residents of Potters Creek subdivision who access via a new pedestrian pathway. The The residents of Hastings Park subdivisions are currently surrounded by development. As a result, many of the natural and wildlife amenities will eventually be lost. And perhaps this is an unavoidable consequence of new development. And in my conversations with residents, folks generally understand that things will change. In fact, in a recent conversation with my neighbor, Jeff, he commented that it is unrealistic, in fact, unreasonable to expect that they won't. And I couldn't agree more. But the corollary to that question that we have is how many of the amenities can be reasonably retained. And in that regard, we believe that further consideration of the roadway plan would be helpful. As I've outlined in previous presentations, the roadway plan in the Loyalist secondary plan does not indicate a change of Hastings Park Drive to become a through road. The dashed lines shown here are not a road, they are a bell easement. And the changes in the new traffic generated by converting Hastings Park Drive to a through road will significantly impact the amenities of Hastings Park subdivision, altering its crescent nature, and change the unique streetscape of Hastings Park Drive and sever its residents from their neighbors to the south. I've also previously outlined the guidelines in the Loyalist secondary plan that call for the preservation of important streetscapes and unique neighborhoods and the mitigation of impacts from adjacent land uses. Hastings Park subdivision residents are very grateful for the work that has been done to plan a collector road network that diverts traffic around Hastings Park subdivision and maintains the local road status of Hastings Park Drive. However, all of that work could be jeopardized by a plan that sees Hastings Park Drive converted to a through road. The recent traffic study seems to share this concern. It stated that by converting Hastings Park Drive to a through road, there is still the option for motorists to use Hastings Park Drive as a shortcut to go between the two new collector roads, and proposes the implementation of speed humps as a deterrent along Hastings Park Drive. Now, on the surface, that seems like it might have some potential, but we've noted that speed humps are generally not utilized by our municipality, so the likelihood of their implementation seems remote. Taking a closer look, we can see that the existing Hastings Park Drive, shown here in green, will be extended slightly on the west end to intersect with Collector A, and extended on the east end to connect to Sienna during Phase 9B of Potters Creek subdivision. So the potential misuse of Hastings Park Drive as an east-west shortcut between these two collectors is clearly evident. And the intent to maintain the local road status of Hastings Park Drive would effectively be lost. A second concern relates to the unintended misuse of the southern portion of Avalon Road by the new residents in the future Avonlea subdivision. This portion of Avalon Road represents a convenient north-south shortcut for the residents in the north end of Avonlea as an alternative to going the much longer way around via Collector Road A here. So our north-south shortcut for the folks that live here is an obvious shortcut for them rather than going around. So we have some recommendations to address the first concern. We recommend to keep Hastings Park Drive as a single access point road, not a through road. And this could be accomplished one of two ways. We could retain the current termination of Hastings Park Drive at its east end here, though this would require a minor modification of the approved draft plan of Potters Creek Phase 9B. Or another alternative would be to proceed with this extension of Hastings Park Drive to Sienna, but do not make the connection here to Collector Road A. And that, of course, would require a minor modification of the Avonlea plan that was presented here today. To address the concern for Avalon Road, we recommend that traffic calming measures or other deterrents be explored in order to prevent its misuse as a shortcut alternative to driving the longer way around here on Collector A. So those recommendations are summarized again here for you on this slide. And just in conclusion, I'd like to thank you all once again for your continued attention and efforts to preserve the amenities of Hastings Park subdivision and for addressing the concerns of its residents. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that presentation. If you could unshare your screen. So thank you very much. And any questions from committee members? No, I don't see any. Okay, thank you, Mr. Dustin, for your presentation. I don't have anyone else listed, so I got a resolution that the 2566531 Ontario Incorporated, 2663925 Ontario Incorporated application number B-50-3-39, B-77-1154, and 12T-21002 be referred to the regular meeting for consideration. Moved by Councillor Alsop. I need a Councillor Feeney. All in favor? That is carried. 3.3 notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, 8092 Highway 62, former Township of Thurlow, now City of Belleville. Owner applicant is Gurinder Saran. Agent is N Architecture Incorporated. File number is B-77-1155. Staff can present the application, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The subject land is located on the east side of Highway 62, south of Old Madoc Road and north of Foxborough Sterling Road and Doucette Road. The City of Belleville previously approved a zoning bylaw amendment application for this property in 2020 to facilitate the development of a gas bar, convenience store, and eating establishment with a drive-through. For reference, that's previous file B-77-1104. The previous application granted approval to the requested uses. However, a holding provision was placed on the zone to require the completion of a hydrogeological study to the satisfaction of the city. The current application requests to modify the current general commercial exception 17 zone to remove the holding symbol and require a water holding tank as the sole water source for any development on the property. The proposed uses are not changing. At this time, the city has not received any formal correspondence from the public regarding this application, and the designation of the subject land in the official plan is Hamlet. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have Tyler Tippany from N Architecture to make a presentation.
Yes, hello. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is actually Nitin Malhotra from N Architecture.
Yeah, I see that. You have the floor.
Yes, we really have no comments. As was pointed out by the city staff, it's an application that was presented to the council before, and it's just a technicality. It's something that we are working with the city. It's not really something that
Still with us?
Yes, yeah, sorry. My computer was acting up. I just want to make sure that I'm still connected.
Yep.
Okay, I can hear you. I can't see you for some reason. But yeah, in short, we have no comments.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from committee members? No, I don't see any. Okay, thank you very much. I got a resolution that the Gurinder Saran application number B-77-1155 be referred to the regular meeting for consideration. Moved by Councillor Sanderson, seconded by Councillor Alsop. All in favor? That's carried. 3.4 notice of complete application and introductory public meeting application for proposed zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 10-245 part of lot 15 concession 2 College Street East, City of Belleville. Owner is City of Belleville. Agent is RFA Planning Consultant Incorporated, and file number is B-77-1156. Staff could present the application, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The subject land is described as part of Lot 15, Concession 2, College Street East, and it's located within the current urban boundary for the city, on the north side of College Street East. These lands are currently referred to as the Northeast Industrial Park lands, which have been in part developed by the city. The application proposes to rezone a portion of the subject land from a holding zone to a general industrial exception 1 zone, so an M2 exception 1 zone. The majority of the subject land is already zoned general industrial exception 1 zone, and the land currently zoned environmental protection zone is not proposed to change in its zoning. Since the publication of the initial report, staff have received 1 request for a notification of decision for this application. The official plan designates the subject lands as industrial and environmental protection. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. And I have Catherine Tran from RFA Planning to make a presentation. Ms. Tran, you're in the meeting and you have the floor.
Thank you. Can I get my presentation brought up to the screen?
Yeah, I'm sure Mr. Bridgen's working on that now.
So my name is Catherine and I'm a planner with RFA Planning Consultants, and I'm here to present in support of the rezoning application for the lands north of 648 College Street East. Next slide. So the subject lands is 52, has an area of 52 hectares, but the land part of the rezoning application consists of 25.3 hectares. The lands are located within the Belleville Urban Service Area and is within the eastern extent of the Northeast Industrial Park. There is 75 meters of frontage on the north side of College Street East, and surrounding the subject lands are all general industrial uses. The site is relatively flat, treed, and vacant, and overall it is currently an underutilized site. Next slide. In terms of work initiated, a pre-consultation meeting was held with municipal staff, and following that was the submission of this rezoning application. Next slide. Under the provincial policy statement, the subject lands are within the settlement area of Belleville, and that is where the focus of growth and development occurs. Future industrial uses on the subject lands will diversify the economic base by including range of employment uses that will support economic activities in the surrounding area. The rezoning application for the subject lands will ensure the lands will be available to support current and projected needs for employment land. And this application is consistent with the 2020 PPS. Next slide. Under the official plan, the lands are designated industrial land use, and a sliver of it is designated environmental protection. There is no official plan amendment requested at this time, and the rezoning conforms with all of the industrial land use policies under the Belleville official plan. So this rezoning application proposes to rezone a portion of the land from the holding zone, which is located on the east side of the map there, from the holding zone to general industrial M2-1 zone with special provisions, which is the existing zone to the west. The rezoning will support the city in creating market-ready industrial lands, which will attract investment, drive additional regional growth, and job creation. The proposed M2-1 zone provides flexibility for future investments where the maximum height requirement does not apply. And this will allow for investors to have change and allow for more flexibility and respond to economic conditions. Next slide. So in summary, the rezoning application submitted is in support of creating market-ready industrial lands for global attraction and job creation. The M2-1 zone provisions are to be exceeded and or met when the lands are to be developed. And the proposed rezoning will allow for the lands to be developed comprehensively with one single industrial zone throughout this extent of the Northeast Industrial Park. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Any questions from committee members? Okay, thank you. I've got a resolution here that the City of Belleville application number B-77-1156 be referred to the regular meeting for further consideration. Moved by Councillor Sanderson, seconded by Councillor Alsop. All in favor? That's carried. I need a motion to adjourn this portion of the meeting. Councillor Sanderson, seconded by Councillor Feeney. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Moving on to the Planning Advisory Committee meeting. Everyone's in attendance. Councillor Kelly is absent and Mayor Panchuk is in as ex officio. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest in general nature thereof? Seeing none, reading and confirmation of the minutes of the City Council Planning Committee meeting and Planning Advisory Committee meeting be approved. Of December 6th, 2021 be approved. Councillor Alsop, Mr. Baltutis, all in favor? It's carried. No deputations, correspondence. Can I get a motion to receive all correspondence submitted to the clerk's office? Mr. Joyce, seconded by Mr. Jennings, all in favor? That's carried. Okay, so referrals from the public meeting. 6.1 notice of complete application, introductory public meeting for proposed zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 3014 215 Pine Hill Crescent, City of Belleville. Owners Absolute General Contractors Limited, and file number is B-77-1153. Resolution reads that report number PP-2022-01 dated January 4th, 2022 regarding notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, 215 Pine Hill Crescent, City of Belleville, County of Hastings be received as information, and that staff report back at such time as input from the public, commenting agencies and municipal departments has been received, assessed, and addressed to the satisfaction of the Engineering Development Services Department. Somebody move that, please. Ms. Brown, second by Councillor Alsop. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. 6.2 notice of complete applications and introductory public meeting for Village of Avonlea application for proposed amendments to Belleville's Loyalist secondary plan, zoning bylaw 2076-80, zoning bylaw 10245, an application for draft plan of subdivision. Parts of lots 31 and 32, broken front concession and concession 1, Township of Sydney, now City of Belleville, County of Hastings. Owners 256-6531 Ontario Incorporated and 266-3925 Ontario Incorporated. File numbers B-50-3-39, B-77-1154, and 12T-21002. The resolution is that report number PP-2022-02 dated January 4th, 2022 regarding notice of complete applications and introductory public meeting for proposed amendment to Belleville's Loyalist secondary plan, zoning bylaw 2076-80, zoning bylaw 10245, an application for draft plan of subdivision for parts of lots 31 and 32, broken front concession and concession 1, Township of Sydney, now City of Belleville, County of Hastings, Village of Avonlea, be received as information, and that staff report back at such time as input from the public, commenting agencies, and municipal departments has been received, assessed, and addressed to the satisfaction of the Engineering and Development Services Department. Somebody move that. Mr. Joyce, seconded by Councillor Alsop. Any questions or comments? Mr. Baltutis.
Thank you. Through the chair to the planning department. Is there a requirement for a large development like this to have any area of it zoned commercial for the potential of having a convenience store or if somebody was interested in doing that, or does that come at a later date if the so-called person wanted to do that?
I can answer that through you, Mr. Chair. From a policy perspective, there's no specific requirement that they provide commercial land uses within the proposed subdivision. However, within the residential designation, there's oftentimes permissions for local commercial uses, but they would still need to be zoned appropriately. Currently, this application doesn't appear to provide any or propose any local commercial uses.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? See none, all in favor? That's carried. 6.3 notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, 8092 Highway 62, former Township of Thurlow, now City of Belleville. Owner applicant is Gurinder Saran. Agent is N Architecture Incorporated. File number is B-77-1155. Resolution is that report number PP-02103 or 2021-03 dated January 4th, 2022 regarding notice of complete application introductory public meeting for proposed zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 3014 for 8092 Highway 62, former Township of Thurlow, now City of Belleville, be received as information, and that staff report back at such time as input from the public, commenting agencies and municipal departments has been received, assessed, and addressed to the satisfaction of the Engineering Development Services Department. And I noticed that should be report PP-2022. Can I get somebody to move that, please? Ms. Brown, seconded by Mr. Jennings. Any questions or comments? All in favor? It's carried. 6.4 notice of complete application and introductory public meeting application for proposed zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 10245, part of lot 15, concession 2, College Street East, City of Belleville. Owner is City of Belleville. Agent is RFA Planning Consultant Incorporated, and the file number is B-77-1156. And the committee, I'm going to be proposing an amendment to the motion that'll read as follows. That report number PP-2022-04 dated January 4th, 2022 regarding notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 10245, part of lot 15, concession 2, College Street East, City of Belleville, be received as information, and that the Planning Advisory Committee recommends the following to City Council. The zoning bylaw number 10245 as amended, be amended by rezoning part of lot 15, concession 2, College Street East, City of Belleville from holding H zone to general industrial M2-1 zone. Somebody move that. Mayor Panchuk, seconded by Councillor Alsop. Any questions or comments? All in favor? That's carried. Moving on to reports. 7.1 staff recommendation report for proposed zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 10245, 135 Station Street, City of Belleville. Owner is KGF Capital Realty. Agent is EchoView Consulting Services Incorporated, and file number B-77-1148 first. Resolution is that the Planning Advisory Committee recommends the following to City Council: that the zoning bylaw number 10245 as amended be amended by amending the site-specific zone for 135 Station Street residential 7th density R7-12 zone by adding special provisions to permit 30 additional dwelling units, reduce minimum required lot area per dwelling unit, reduce minimum required parking spaces per dwelling unit, define permitted uses for the commercial space, reduce the maximum gross floor area of commercial space, and incorporate zoning relief from past minor variances. Somebody move that, please. Councillor Sanderson, seconded by Mr. Joyce. Any questions or comments? Councillor Feeney. Your microphone's muted, Councillor Feeney.
My apologies. Okay. I am very excited about this particular project in the fact that it is already in construction, but they're going to look at 30 more units of affordable units. And by doing that, they're not increasing their footprint. What they're doing is they're just going to reduce the amount that they were going to dedicate to commercial uses. And with the parking reduction, it is consistent with the policies for affordable housing. So I think that that this is a good thing for us to support. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any more other questions or comments? See none, all in favor? It's carried. 7.2 staff recommendation report for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw 3014 as amended, 284, 286 Maitland Drive, City of Belleville. Owner is Meyer Creeks Developments Incorporated. Agent is RFA Planning Consultant Incorporated, and file number is B-77-1151. Resolution is the Planning Advisory Committee recommends the following to City Council. That application B-77-1151 to amend the City of Belleville zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended for 284 to 286 Maitland Drive, City of Belleville be approved as follows. That zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended be amended by rezoning the subject land from rural residential RR zone to general industrial M1 zone to service industrial SI-10 zone with special provisions to permit limited service industrial uses and other uses, including a medical clinic, veterinarian clinic, and office, including a vocational skills training center and adult resource center. Somebody to move that, please. Mayor Panchuk, seconded by Mr. Jennings. Any questions or comments? All in favor? That's carried. 7.3 staff recommendation report for proposed zoning bylaw amendment to zoning bylaw 10-245 as amended, 151 Station Street, City of Belleville. Owner is 242-2093 Ontario Limited. Agent is RFA Planning Consultant Incorporated, and file number B-77-1152. Resolution is that the Planning Advisory Committee recommends the following to City Council. That zoning bylaw number 10-245 as amended be amended by rezoning 151 Station Street Zone General Commercial C2 Zone to residential 6 density R6-37-H zone with a holding provision and with special provisions for reduced lot frontage, lot area per dwelling unit, front yard depth, interior and exterior yard width, landscaped area, and increased building height. Somebody move that, please. Mr. Baltutis, Councillor Alsop seconding. Any questions or comments? All in favor? That's carried. Moving on to information matters. Resolution is the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment monitoring report to January 4th, 2022 be received. Mr. Joyce, Mr. Jennings, any questions or comments? All in favor? That's carried. Just some closing remarks. The Planning Advisory Committee's applicable decisions will be forwarded to the City Council for consideration, forming part of the agenda for the City Council meeting to be held. And with that, I need a motion to adjourn. Mr. Baltutis and Councillor Feeney, all in favor?